Hello everybody and welcome to the quarterfinals showcase of the third Impact. I'm Alice and today with me, well, pretty much as always, is gonna be my second caster, No. Say hi.
Oh, hello. It's good to be back.
Yeah, and we are gonna go over the maps of the quarterfinals map pool. I think they're quite good. And yeah, we can move into it. First pick.
Start us off. First race one, our stream pick. It is going to be woven into a spell on 1.025 Is this a custom?
Yes, this is by James Corbel and Coder.
So we're going to get clap in this one. Kind of knowing the song already, I would assume this takes a more kind of broken approach overall, which I think works fine, especially considering like what we saw with him last week in a pick, which I would say is more ideal, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see.
We are moving into a pretty hard speed section. Overall, I mean, this is the speed pick, but like, yeah, this overall seems pretty dense and also pretty uncomfy overall. I would say this pick is much different than our last RC1, and with that, we are gonna probably see a little switch in strategies with the players.
Yeah, a very different approach to speed than I think most people are used to. To me, this kind of looks like a bit of a more kind of like focus on like fast jump stream bursts, but like extremely fast jump stream burst, with some of these more kind of like continuous patterns every now and then.
Yeah. I would also like to point out at the beginning, we had a couple mini jacks there that could really throw someone off, and I'm going into this commerce section. Still pretty tricky to hit in my opinion.
Ooh, that's a nasty transition.
It might really trip some people up here. And coming to the end, I mean, this is it. Pretty short, but I would say very difficult. And with that, I don't think we have anything more to say about this stage. We can move over to RC2, which will be our jump stream pick.
Yeah, and I think some people might be familiar with this song in general, but it is going to be Groovy Roller Coaster Acid Trip on 1.1 time. We're already moving into 264 BPM, holy.
Yeah, so for this pick, this is specifically like a not really dense 264 BPM jump stream pick that's kind of trilly. A lot of perpetually changing patterns overall, with some repetition on the doubles, etc. But it is a pretty hard pick, and the speed difference is just about 12 BPM, which really is a lot. And we're moving into this territory which players that are a little less physical might actually very much struggle to hit this.
Yeah, you can kind of see. I mean, this works very nicely as like your kind of like standard like jump stream within like a tournament setting. I mean, especially given by its high lotto, you have to kind of expect these kind of like standard jump stream picks that work really well.
Moving into the next section, and it is once again something pretty similar, except patterns are overall longer, and in the drain time there's less switches. And yeah, once again, this map might be like a very big step up from last time, even though we already said the other one was a big step up. And yeah, I mean, yeah, as I said, people that are a little less physical might have an issue to hit this comfortably, and I do expect some column locks at this stage. Really is just an insane map though.
Yeah, and I think like we had kind of seen within like the last section, like the anchors start to get a little bit more sustained. Like you start to see them be a little bit more common, especially like the 5-note anchors, and as well as like the density kind of building up just a little bit more within this section.
This map, yeah, it does really stand out with it. Oh yeah, also we have to mention 3 minutes and 10 seconds long. yeah, for 264 BPM, this is a lot, and the density kind of goes up into the last quarter. So there's a very, very big kind of focus on your overall stamina here. And yeah, I mean, just a pretty difficult pick in general. And the patterns I do expect will not be so comfortable for players to hit. A lot of these trills from right to left, doubles focusing mainly on middle column.
Yeah, it's a lot of these like kind of directional patterns that like you start to see, which kind of helps with this pick, especially like it being a lot more intuitive, helping readability a lot as well. But it's also just gonna put a little bit of like a physical strain, just given the fact that it is severely dense when it kind of gets into this ending section right here, and a lot of these O trills and two-hand trills as well popping up.
Yeah, and this is the end, and this song keeps going up until the very end, so
oh, that
everything
ending
will be decided. And that last anchor on the left side really, truly could mess someone up at the last moment. I mean, wow.
Yeah, that's gonna be scary. But I guess we can move on to Rice 3, which I believe is going to be our dump pick.
Yeah, it is going to be a dump pick.
Okay. And go. It is going to be Hen on 1.1 times, right? I think this is going to be a really familiar pick for some people. This being featured in AMM 1 and in Philippine Nationals, I believe in round of 16, either last year or the year before.
This is a little bit of a more mini jack focused pick, you know, overall. A lot of rolls, etc. This is, yeah, once again quite a change from our last dump picks overall. A little less stream focused with way more of that freeform dump kind of patterning.
Yeah, and as we kind of continue on, we're starting to get into the horse course here, which we'll ramp things up a little bit more, but not by too much so far.
Yeah, once again, this is very, very much like mini jack focused. I feel like those transitions towards from the jacky parts to streamy parts and in reverse, I mean, this might be pretty difficult for some people, especially that it kind of does it very suddenly.
Yeah, and
you might not expect it.
Yeah, I also think that the length of this will also be another kind of factor within this pick. Although you do get these kind of like ample breaks, like right here where you don't have too much going on. You still have like some of these like, I guess, trickier patterns like these O-trills as well. But you don't have to like sustain that kind of like stamina for like too long.
Yeah, and the one thing here is that the song is very consistent with a drain time of 2 minutes 54 seconds. Overall, this map makes for a pretty tricky pick. I think this might not be picked very much compared to last dump picks. This is quite a step up in like overall technicality of it too, because it's really less stream focused this time.
I mean, I would say this is still like heavily stream focused, but again, it's a dump pick. It should be like stream focused to an extent. But you do see like these kind of combinations of other patterns as well. So I guess in a sense, you could kind of say it's almost like round of 32, where it has like this like more like mixed feeling.
Yeah, and I think this is what a perfect tournament dump kind of is. I mean, it's kind of like mixed rice, except kind of more stream focused and way more freeform, and I think this pick does this very well.
Yeah, you don't like have to like have this like sustained motion that like trips your stamina like really fast. It's more so gonna just be like a really big consistency test, especially with this ending.
Yeah. And yeah, with that we can move on to Rice 4, which is I forgot.
I believe this is our abrasive tech pick.
Oh yeah, right, abrasive tech.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be I believe a custom from someone somewhere. Sophie Hard with a rate of 1.05.
If you see a someone somewhere pick this late on, there's definitely gonna be some screwed up patterns.
I mean, this is the abrasive tech pick. This is the place for all the screwy patterns. And to really challenge the player on a technical level.
Yeah, you can kind of see these patterns like being really sudden and just like really fast as well. But you don't have like this like constant motion, especially compared to like the last pick, where like you still have like that kind of constant motion, but it's very broken up in here. We do get a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I mean, these patterns here are pretty brutal. A lot of graces too. In these difficult patterns, kind of transitioning into jacks along with the rolls makes it very, very hard gameplay. It constantly transitions you to do something else, so like hand positions, etc., especially for like wrist up players, can change quite a bit, which might make it a little bit harder to consistently hit.
Yeah, there's like a lot of awkward hand permutations within this, especially within the parts that get a lot more like, I guess, denser in a sense. Like you can start to see it here a little bit.
Absolutely crazy pick, and the song itself does just very much resemble the map. I think the map is done perfectly here. It's a bunch of noise, and with that, there's a bunch of different things in this map. And yeah, I mean, for my taste, this is a perfectly executed abrasive tech pick.
Yeah, you get some like jump burst as well throughout, so it's definitely something to be wary of when playing like something like this. But overall, this does focus a lot like within like that kind of bursty aspect. But I guess that's something to be kind of aware of.
A little bit of a calmer section. Still a bit testing your ratio overall. I personally think there might be a little, some 200s on this calm section. Moving on once again into the kind of bursty part a little bit with the mini jacks, interrupting it every so often, and yeah.
Yeah. Not like a very constant pick, but it still like marks itself within like that kind of tech area, especially within that abrasive area. Although I guess focusing a little bit more on that bursty side, I guess helping. But that concludes race 4, and we can move on to race 5, which I believe is our jack pick.
Yes, it is our jack, so jack mains can hype it now. Lapix's song, which is appreciated, of course.
Yeah, and Alexa chart. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this approaches Jack.
Starting off with that Jack map vibe, you get a little bit of like semi-jump stream before you go into the jacks.
Yeah, you start to see some like 3-note anchors every now and then, adding a little bit of control to this pick. Some of these burst every so often, which I think are gonna play really annoyingly, especially for like a pick like this one.
I think it just adds the sort of level to a jack pick to have bursts like these when it requires a little bit more finger control and to actually know the map. So I think this one is quite unsight readable, but in my opinion, for a tournament map pool, this is perfectly okay. And I mean, we're moving on to this like little bit calmer section with all the patterning, a lot of mini jacks.
Yeah, getting into a calmer section for now. Yeah, I think too much happening for now. Yeah, and then kind of stepping back into this section, going back right into the jack. Some of these 3-note anchors starting to come back alongside.
Beautifully executed long jacks here, and yeah, that one long note in the middle of these patterns sometimes I think might trip some people up. You know, if you're in the motion of constantly jacking, then I think this might trip some people up. who are really consistent in these hand motions, and yeah, a little bit of an anchory part.
Yeah, and a really big
lot of
spike
hands
in this
here, too.
section. But that will conclude our Jack pick. It'd be interesting to see this one in play.
Yeah, I mean, look at this replay.
Yeah.
CLG did great on this, so I wonder how the rest of the people will do on this. But with that, we can move on to boss pick.
And it's going to be Lin Necrone. It is going to be by Strubble and Nipple this time.
Moving in straight into some kind of hamstring vibe here, with some bursts, some graces. Already kind of moving away from that last pick, kind of being more a dumpy boss pick. Here it already moves into these very structured patterns.
Yeah, so far I guess it's still kind of within like that dumpy area in a sense. It's kind of like awkward to describe something like this. It focuses within like that kind of dumpy section, but also within like that raw skill area. I guess kind of working more towards like as like a miscellaneous wildcard pick.
This part is especially not really dumpy anymore. This resembles more like... This is basically just a lot of trills with jacks in them. This really does kind of focus the overall raw skill vibe, especially this part being very heavy on the transitions from jacks to raw. And yeah, this pick is just, yeah, as you said, it is kind of wildcardy in a sense of depending on where you are in the map, there's a lot of different patterning here, and this is what mixed rice should do.
Yeah, but a little bit of like a break section here for now. Decided to ramp up just a little bit more as we continue through on.
Moving straight into a jack part with rolls in between, as I said, kind of difficult to pull off really.
Good. Kind of going back to like this hand-streamy gameplay. Fairly dense as well, so it's definitely something to be careful of, especially like trying to transition from these more speedier patterns into these like denser patterns.
It is also very quick. That's what I would like to mention. Like its overall speed very much kind of makes these patterns way harder. And in the sense of that, like, all of these transitions are done already when you're tapping very fast to actually hit this on time. And yeah, the transitions between patterns in this map might be quite a trouble for someone, especially here. This was just a fully surprise burst.
Yeah, but kind of back into this like, I guess really dense gameplay with some of these bursts in between as well, so it's definitely something to kind of be careful of. Like we kind of see in the replay as well, messing up a little bit at that ending section.
Yeah, but still, I would say this pick in particular is a huge jump in overall difficulty from the last boss map. I mean, you know, it is +2, but it really does kind of highlight here that this pick will be an actual boss pick that people that aren't physical will struggle a lot on. So yeah, moving on. LN1, right?
Yeah, we can move on to our Ellens now. Finally done with the rice. And it is going to be Replica by Hylato with
Miku.
Mysterion. I think a lot of people might be familiar with this pick. I believe it was used in GBC Spring Grand Finals, or it was used in one of the GBCs. And for some of the Chilean players, they will also recognize this from, I believe, semifinals as well.
starting off very hard. Also, may I mention W Miku and Mapu. Yeah, starting off with some pretty hard releases overall. Some things are just people that mainly play Rice might catch a lot of 200s on.
Yeah, so far it's kind of within that, like, I guess bursty area so far. But we are kind of getting back into like the swing of things within like these coordination picks where you start seeing this kind of like Jackie gameplay in a sense. In some of these bursts every now and then as well. And in this section, which does get a little bit more bursty, a little bit more difficult as well, as there's a lot more happening all at once, and that coordination aspect as well getting a little bit more difficult with that hold on the outer columns and those jumps within the inner columns.
Yeah. Also, like to mention that 240 BPM overall for this song, being quite quick. Yeah, this coordination also kind of matches with like the. It's on the little faster side, so it's kind of not really release focused this time, and it really goes into the, as you said, the Jackie kind of coordination feeling that you kind of do play these lens, sort of kind of like Jacks, but this section is more true coordination.
Yeah, especially as you get like the slower parts, it becomes a little bit less reliant on that. But as we're slowly building back up, you start to see the kind of gameplay that you've been seeing earlier, more focused within that kind of like Jackie area, that figure control section.
Also, huge combo count. This is a map where a single miss at the beginning might mean nothing at this point. This map is decently long, I believe. Actually, it is very long, 3 minutes 37 seconds. A really, really long pick, which I think will drain a lot of players' stamina and sort of like will start to become inconsistent at times. I believe people might break a lot in the middle section here, where the Jackie motions are very much complemented by the sort of stream kind of release vibe, making this pick quite overall like different at a lot of places.
Yeah, and as we kind of continue on with this next section, start seeing more of these kind of bursts alongside here. So that might get a little bit hard, but you do get a little bit of a break here at least. And this outro right here.
It goes on into the basically what the intro was, and I'm wondering now that players have gotten this break if someone will forget there's still map going on, because that like no note break is kind of long.
Yeah.
So we might see something like this.
Yeah, but that will conclude our first Ellen, our coordination pick. Kind of starting to roll in more into like that kind of usual timing how, but kind of wait.
And with that, density is next. LN2.
And it is
which will be
Verdon's Euro.
I believe this was in MWC 2024, not this map, but this song.
Yeah, the song itself
as
was.
density. Starting off very strong, jeez.
Yeah, especially as we're getting into semifinals area, the BPM is going to start getting a lot higher really quickly.
I mean, if I want to compare this map to anything, I would compare it to the MWC version, which I believe is was for a round that was easier than this.
That was for finals.
Oh, never mind then. But yeah, this starts off very, very difficult. And kind of goes into this part which might trip a lot of people up with a pretty huge anchor on first column, which I actually wonder if players will be proficient enough at density to really hit this comfortably, especially that this is like a pretty much a repeating pattern all throughout because of the song's structure. I'm worried that players might kind of get a little bit too comfortable with this pattern and start overhitting, etc. But yeah, so so far, pretty difficult pick. Also, very high BPM by now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of getting near like the standard. I will say for those who are familiar with High Texas version from finals, this does look a lot less like coordination heavy compared to that one, so you might not have to worry about that kind of coordination aspect within a density pick as much. But you still have that kind of LN hold strain that you can kind of see within here with some of these longer LNs, but it's not for as long, so it might play a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah, I think this is way less kind of coordination and density at the same time, and this is... Well, this is Verdon's map too, but it very much reminds me kind of Bad For Me from qualifiers. It has that structure of it,
Yeah.
which is just pure LN density, and I think it pulls it off very good. And this ending is kind of evil, not gonna lie.
Yeah, a little troll burst, but that will conclude our density pick. And with that, we move on to LN3, which I believe is our tech pick.
This is LN Tech, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's correct.
And it is going to be Stereotype Spabble.
Not only do we have Miku, we have Teto too. Is this like the best map pool?
Knowing Stereotype starting, I assume this is going to be very freeform and very, I don't know the right word to say, I guess very literal in terms of like the song representation, just given the way that Stereotype does chart. And you can kind of see it within these dumps as well.
Yeah, you could already see it. I mean, his mapping really focuses on bringing the music representation as it kind of should be, without any like, without any nuances. And I think you can see it here perfectly because of the song structure. This kind of does go into that little like LN dump sort of feel at times.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does follow that dump area, especially just given that it's Stereotype. Like it's like we said. I mean, Stereotype focuses a lot on mapping to the music, like in a literal sense, in the sense of trying to evoke the song itself instead of charting just to have a chart. And you can kind of see it with some like the structuring here being a little bit more in depth as well.
We also like to mention on how some of these releases are charted, especially at end of patterns. They can really trip someone up into 200s because they are very non-linear. His patterning is very non-linear overall, and I think some players might struggle with that, especially the players that are more versed in Rice than LN. This might be like the killer LN pick.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a bit of a scary pick for some people, especially if they aren't used to like this type of charting. Just because, I mean, LN Tech is such a versatile area that is still kind of getting explored onto, and especially with some of these staggers as well. It's definitely gonna be a little bit of a tricky section, just given that accuracy component within the LN tails.
Also, pretty brutal trills on second and third column within some of these patterns. Make this kind of 1st and 4th hold with a trill in the middle. A pretty difficult pattern overall to hit, especially that this is a LN, and you have to also hold the trill kind of. I've seen some of those here, and it's pretty brutal. And their releases at the end still not linear, so we might see some late game accuracy drops.
Yeah, it has like a lot of visual components as well, so there should be some smoothness to playing this, but that is going to conclude LN3 and our LN picks as well. On to Hybrid 1 then, I guess.
Hybrid 1, standard hybrid pick.
Yeah, this is going to be our stream-focused hybrid. This might not be too much of a familiar pick to some people, but I think some people will recognize this from MKCC Grand Finals.
Beautiful song. Also, very difficult intro.
Yeah,
it already
goes
goes in very strong. The song goes into that kind of more breakcore vibe, which complements like the pick overall. It has a lot of plays for walls, etc. And now that I'm seeing a lot of trills too, even having a LN jump trill in the middle.
This is still like a fairly standard pick within like the hybrids, although it does kind of switch things up a little bit within like these more, I guess, like techier sections. But the release is still being fairly standard, so not having too much of like a huge kind of difficulty in the sense of accuracy. But it is going to focus a lot more on that kind of raw skill aspect. But I mean, given that we're in semifinals in terms of WC difficulty, it does make sense to see something like this.
Also, I would like to mention, we are in a different part by now, but the raw style / up tempo part that was there was really brutal with the LN inverse being non-linear.
Yeah. Yeah, this part probably gonna be tricky.
Here.
I think for the players that are still here, this part should be fairly manageable. But it's just going to be a little bit on the trickier side in terms of coordination. But I think this is probably going to be one of like the easier picks in terms of just the kind of like, I guess, hybrid sections, I would assume. Just given the kind of like jump streamy aspect of it.
Coming to the end of this, goes into this burst, ends in jacks pretty much, and a couple single streams finishing this map. I mean, yeah, this is, as you said, probably gonna be pretty easy for the players, except I think personally in that for example inverse part there may be some trip ups, and I think this is like a comfortable pick for very good LN players in my opinion.
Yeah, this is going to be a fairly comfortable pick for most players, I would assume. But we can move on to Hybrid 2. I believe this is going to be our back-focused hybrid.
Yes.
There's going to be Stability Splactar Heroine. Really, really old name coming here. As we go in, you can kind of see this being a little bit on the, I guess, different side in terms of like jack hybrids, focusing a little bit on that kind of more control-y aspect.
Yeah, well, the jacks are there. There's some coordination to be had here also, besides from the typical jack hybrid. And also those graces seem pretty hard overall to hit when you're in that kind of form of jacking. And here a little bit of jump stream coming our way.
Yeah, these sensitive sections up here kind of just kicking you off a little bit. Nothing too much though. But you do get these like tricky parts that come up pretty often as well. And especially a part like this one, that's going to require a lot of just string control in general. Especially with some of these awkward midi jacks that come up here.
And the shield.
Yeah.
The shield with a long note beside it. It's a pretty hard patterning choice overall. And we just saw kind of a spam of that in that section.
Yeah, but you do get a little bit of a break here.
Some single notes, nothing special, and a pretty huge long jack.
Yeah, it doesn't really focus too much on the kind of like density, but it more so focuses on that kind of free control aspect within a jack hybrid, which I don't think is explored too much, so I think it's a really interesting pick. I honestly, a pretty good pick from the pooling team.
This part being pretty chill with that jump stream sort of vibe again. Going into a roll section with mini jacks. Yeah, this one's gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah, kind of leaning more into that right side, just given the kind of like more, I guess, LNE bias within these sections. Although this part maybe being a little bit on the spiky side.
And I believe this is quite harder from what we've seen in the beginning. And with the hand, which, oh my god, okay.
Yeah, still focusing on that kind of like jacky motion, so I guess a little bit of a mix of, I guess, both areas. Definitely gonna be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Yeah. Now with that tech hybrid, right?
Yeah, we just have our tech hybrid left. And it is gonna be Naoni Bunnies Leave the door open. Which crazy pick, especially seeing this name. I think 90 Money is like really freeform in the way that they chart. So I'm expecting some interesting patterns within this.
I just want to say that this pick used to be NSV map. It says NSV there, and I don't know if this is a joke, but if this map was originally NSV map, pretty hard SV map then.
I mean, it just depends on the SVs that are there, but as we kind of go into this part, you start to see more of this kind of dumping within here. Not playing how you would probably expect this to play out. But like I said, it's a little bit more freeform in the way that it's charted.
Some hard, like, catchy releases there. In that sort of break section, and here moving to that like hand with a mini jack after sort of thing, and yeah, the song is overall pretty slow, so we'll be seeing like that control tech kind of a vibe here.
Yeah, it's a lot of these like awkward patterns which don't look too difficult, but there's a lot of just kind of coordination needed, and especially frame control when trying to like hold good accuracy on these. And then back into these like LN dumps right here. These tricky patterns.
Pretty hard LN dumps anymore. Pretty hard LN dumps overall, and yeah, overall this song is quite different. Just overall, like the song is different for overall charting in Osomania.
Yeah,
and you can kind of see with the map.
Yeah, this is probably not like a song you would expect within like a Hybrid 3. But it's kind of like it's like in a sense like in the sense of how like Livia makes a lot of these like really interesting songs into Hybrid 3s, which you wouldn't usually expect. So I guess in a sense it's kind of like the same vibe in this one, but with of course a very different song choice than you usually see.
Overall, pretty hard patterns we can see here. With the song being so slow, there's only so much you can do for the like rolly tech aspect of everything. So here we're kind of focusing on that pure sort of control, and with the Bruno Mars vocals in the background being mapped to this burst stream type thing.
Yeah, it's just a lot of these kind of like bursty patterns, and then when the vocals start to kick in, a lot more of these kind of dumpier patterns. But still, the patterns still get really awkward in this one. So it's definitely not a pick to kind of look at and scoff at.
Yeah. Even though this may be a little bit easier for the people that aren't physical. If there's a player that mainly plays early game picks, I think he might still be able to pull this one off.
Yeah, it kind of depends. It's going to be an interesting pick to see. But we can finally go on to the tiebreaker.
Yeah. Interesting tiebreaker, definitely.
I think this is going to be familiar to quite a few people. It is going to be the ranked version of this.
Yeah, so you can play this one and after maybe get PP from this, depending on your rank. Pretty rare overall in the third impact to have a ranked map in map pool, but yeah,
it's
very interesting. Yeah, very interesting tiebreaker choice though, and I do like the song very much, and that map is very hard. I mean, all these patterns here with that like a double jack there, that was very quick. I mean, these are patterns that not a lot of people will be able to hit comfortably, especially in like a tournament setting when this is a tiebreaker. The nerves are probably high, so yeah, these patterns are pretty killer for someone who is who doesn't have enough nerve control.
Yeah, and it's very techy one as well, which is always good to see. You could kind of see like some of these mini checks, some of these really awkward bursts, and these like more finger control oriented patterns as well climbing in.
The song is very choppy in nature, and we kind of see this a lot with the patterns. They are very non-linear and yeah, leaning very much towards that techie side, but it is very hybrid in its nature. Like, it literally switches between LN and Rice every 3 seconds, which I think is a good test of overall consistency too.
Yeah, you see a lot of these like kind of rhythm changes, which I mean it makes sense, especially within the one key instrument if you are familiar with the kind of one key customs.
Yeah, coming into that little chill section, it's still not chill in map's nature overall. It doesn't provide like a huge break here. A little bit of hand stream going into Jax. And another section of the song, this one being much more structured overall.
Yeah, especially as like we're starting to get into like I guess more of like a Jackie area in here. There's some of these bursts coming along as well. There's still a lot of these kind of mixtures of jacks and bursts alongside, so it's definitely not an area that you can kind of play too comfortably, especially with transitioning needing to be a skill.
Going to a Rice section. This is like very consistency based Rice sort of. And once again into the LN. Very controlly LN, my add.
Yeah, nothing too intense, it's more just these bursts that are making it a little bit more trickier, especially within these like I guess more calmer sections in general. But starting to pick up just a little bit more now.
Going into another drop here. It's sort of starting with these very awkward LN. And yeah, going into that very streamy part here.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a little bit more trickier now. Yeah, I guess we're focusing within that kind of speedier aspect now. And especially having to transition out of like the jacks, basically transitioning in and out of opposite patterns.
Yeah, I mean, absolute insanity this pick in my opinion. I think it fits very well into overall that TB vibe. It accomplishes this perfectly. Very high combo cap also because of the large amount of the lens.
Yeah.
Huge difficulty spike from last TB in my opinion, or fully custom TB. Also, this one being way less Rice centric overall, having less only Rice sections. So quite a change overall.
Yeah, I do think it works out though. Especially with this ending here that just gets a little bit more progressively screwed up. Little wall right there. These final sections coming up.
And to finish off the map, absolutely crazy stuff overall. Pretty hard ending. And with that, this pick concludes the showcase for the quarterfinals of the third Impact tournament. I was casting here along with Snow, and yeah, for all the details, just stay tuned, etc. And yeah, I mean, have a great have great rounds, win, do whatever, have fun. It was me, Alice, once again with Snow, and yeah, see you guys.
See ya.